Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about my modular synthesizer. Those of you who watch my videos regularly will be very familiar with the synth because I use it in pretty much everything I do. It started out its life in 2012 as a synthesizers.com entry system, and then over the next few years I selected modules to complete the cabinet with the intention basically of making it the ultimate analog monosynth, which it pretty much is. But the reason I'm talking about the modular today is because it's about to get an expansion. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to give you an overview of the machine as it has been for the last 5 years before that expansion happens. So, moving left to right, at the far left we have the Q118 instrument interface. This is how I get signals from other gear into the modular for filtering, modulation or triggering other events. Next to that I have the Q104 MIDI interface. This takes a MIDI signal and converts it into the voltages that the synthesizer uses to operate. Next up we have a Q105 slew limiter. This takes an input signal and applies a slew to it, and it's most commonly used for portamento. And next to that we have the multiples. Very simple module, just helps in the distribution of signals around the system. And now we get to the heart of the synthesizer. I have 4 Q106 oscillators. I really love these oscillators. They're super versatile, they're really wide ranging, so you can use them as LFOs. They've got loads of patch points for spitting out all of their waveforms simultaneously. They've got lots of patch points for modulation, and the sawtooth wave is probably the best sounding sawtooth wave I've ever heard on a synthesizer. Next to that I have a Q110 noise source. It's pretty self-explanatory. It spits out white noise, pink noise and a low frequency noise that's super useful for cool sounding modulation. And beside that I have a Q116 ring modulator. A ring modulator basically sort of takes two signals and smashes them together and gives you a cool metallic sounding output. Doctor Who fans will know it as the voice of the Daleks, and this ring modulator in particular is pretty special because it was a gift from Roger Arick, the creator of the synthesizers.com system. Next to that I have 2 Q112 4-channel mixers. Again, pretty self-explanatory, they're mixers. Next up, a powerhouse of a module, the Q107 state variable filter. I love this filter, it sounds really good. And again, like the VCOs, it spits out all of its modes simultaneously, so that's really useful. There's loads of patch points for modulation and level control, and yeah, just sounds wonderful. Next to the filter I have 2 Q109 envelope generators for contouring the filter, the VCA or pitch or anything else that might need contouring. Drawing to the end of the cabinet I have a Q108 amplifier, and this is where the modular synth people in the comments are going to go nuts. Only one VCA in a modular synthesizer? Are you mad? Well, I agree. Totally. It has served me very well in the synth as it has been so far, but this is something I am going to address in the expansion. And finally, at the far right of the cabinet, I have a Q115 spring reverb. Really gorgeous sounding reverb. I use it on many more things other than my modular, but when used with the modular, it does give it that really wonderful, old-fashioned, wobbly reverb. And that's it. That is my modular as it has been from 2015 up until now. Now I do have some modules and power components on the way from synthesizers.com, so I suppose I'd best get busy building my second cabinet. And for that I went to visit my good friend Zoe Cairns. Right now we are executing a rather brilliant plan of hers to glue together 3 floorboards to make a larger board to make the modular cabinet out of. And it turns out it's actually really cost effective. So we currently have the second panel clamped up now and ready to go. But before I can show you any more, I'm going to show you something that I thought was going to be a complete and total failure. 3D printing a synthesizer stand by hand. Yeah, this thing works way better than it has any right to. So we got all of the boards glued together into larger boards and started to cut them down to size before we realised that Zoe's saw is a total piece of garbage. And so we've taken the boards back to the local DIY shop and they're cutting them down for us. So we're sitting having some lunch and we're about to go back and see what we can do with the rest of it. Just thought I'd share this. So these are the base pedestals that wind turbines in the ocean stand on. And they're sort of big, imposing things, and it's weird seeing them float over the horizon. But there's a weird sort of local patriotism flowing through me, finally seeing a large man-made structure floating down the Tyne again. This is the Tyne River, the heart of shipbuilding and bridge building and all that sort of shit for centuries, and it all got shut down a few decades ago. And here it is, we're doing shit again. Kind of awesome. So this is the bottom, and this is the left-hand side of the thing, clamped and glued. We're going to drill along here and screw it in. You see this is the bottom because you've got the 3 floorboards glued together here to make the one larger board, and it's a bit obvious seams. Now we could just fill this with wood filler, but it doesn't matter because this is the underside of the cabinet. As you can see from this bit here, it just looks like one solid piece of wood, so we don't need to bother. Squidgy feet. That right there is Spotty Dog. Packages here. It is rather bashed. Thanks, UPS. Well, I hope the contents are alright. The dreaded packing peanuts. Okay, let's get this into the studio so we can talk about what's in it and get it into the cabinet. Right, this is a little bit awkward spacing and awkward positioning. The kitchen table where I would normally do this sort of thing has been commandeered as a workspace due to the current ongoing situation. So I have this armchair in my studio. I've got the box on the floor here. I've got my mic set up here. I have no idea how well this is picking me up. If I'm clipping, I'm not exactly in a good position for seeing the meters on the audio interface over there, but we're going to have to make the best of it. So let's have a look and see what I've got. First thing off the top here we go. Q107. Now, I can never remember what synthesizers.com's product numbers are. You probably saw me in the overview section glancing at my computer screen where I had made notes. Aha, the Q... It's not a Q107, it's a Q103. Okay. What is it? Yeah, the Q107's the filter, never mind. The Q103 is the power interface module. So basically what needs to happen is my existing cabinet has a power supply in it. I don't need another power supply for the new cabinet. I do, however, need a way to link the second cabinet to the power supply in the first cabinet. And I do so with a DC power interface. There we are. Right, where am I going to put these? That doesn't seem safe. What else we got? Packing peanuts everywhere. This is Q117. And again, I have forgotten what a Q117 is. I forgot what I ordered, that's the other problem. Q117 sample and hold module. This one said Q150A. Now I know what this is, I remember this one. This is a module I've been after for quite some time. This is synthesizers.com ladder filter, sort of Moog style filter. Believe it or not, as a synth nut, I don't own anything by Moog, and all of my friends and acquaintances with synthesizers.com systems tell me that this sounds absolutely amazing, and from what I've heard online, they're not lying to me. New filter. This says Q124, which is a multiples module. I just needed a second one of those. Bit of utility. Now this is the power cable harness. This connects to the back of the Q103 and then goes off to the other modules in the cabinet. A nice Ziploc bag with my power interconnect cable. So this is the cable that will connect the power supply to the Q103 in the new system. Plenty of paperwork about the modules that I've got. And that's it. That's what I've got from synthesizers.com. I think it's about time I got some of this stuff installed in my second cabinet. Now my first cabinet is going to have to come down because I came to the conclusion that the second cabinet is going to have to sit underneath so I have easy access to the power switch. So it's time to do a bit of moving. That was a little bit more of a faff than I was expecting. A couple of problems with my setup here. Problem one is because the power supply is in the top cabinet, it's a bit top heavy, so it's a little bit wobbly. That's fine, because at some point in the future I plan to build what's called a Studio 44 style cabinet, which is double height and leans back, and when I do that the power supply will be in there, back in the bottom again. And the other problem with the power supply being in the top is that the power interconnect cable are angled cables, and they're angled in such a way that they're expecting to be connected upwards and I'm trying to connect downwards. They're sort of not quite oriented right. So, bit of a faff, but that is why I ordered a slightly longer cable. So now I'm going to put some modules in, but I've decided I don't just want to put the new modules in the new cabinet. I want to have a bit of a shufty around to find a bit more of an ergonomic layout now that I have the two cabinets. It's time to do a little bit more moving. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go and check some modular grid and do some layout on there before I mess around with this. So this is definitely going to be a time lapse. And so, there it is, my new 44 space modular synthesizer system. That took a bit longer than expected. I ended up consulting Modular Grid and designing a few things on there. If you're remotely into modular, strongly recommend you take a look at Modular Grid. It's a fantastic free way to plan out your system, and this would have taken even longer if it wasn't for Modular Grid. As you can see, there's quite a few spaces left in there for, well, in anticipation of future modules, because I already have some future modules in mind. Everything in the system so far is from synthesizers.com, and I cannot stress enough how much I love synthesizers.com. If you're remotely interested in looking at the MU stuff, synthesizers.com is the best place to start. They have a fantastic selection of modules. They pretty much have the standard in terms of power supply units, and the staff are wonderful, and there's a great community around them. But I am planning to broaden my horizons a little bit and look into some Eurorack conversions and some other digital modules to basically allow me to create yet more interesting, weird noises. I suppose I should have a go on the new modules. So, here's my new ladder filter, and here's my new sample and hold. Let's have a listen to the ladder filter. I've currently got a sawtooth wave, one of those sexy sawtooth waves from a Q106, coming in here. Let's whack a bit of resonance up. Let's whack a lot of resonance up. We've also got a 12 dB mode. With half resonance. And with full resonance. Wow, great sounding filter. Let's see what the sample and hold does. So right now I've sort of got the cliched patch of white noise into the sample and hold input. It's internal clock and it's modulating the cutoff of the filter. But it does have this external gate, and we can play with something more interesting than white noise, I think. So now I've got another Q106 acting as an LFO, feeding a sawtooth wave into the input, and I've got another oscillator sending a gate. Now, let's see what happens when we sync those two LFOs. And let's chuck in a second oscillator. Let's put a bit of spring reverb on that, I think. And there you are, plenty of rhythmic cinematic fun, simply with a ladder filter, a sample and hold, and a couple of oscillators. And so the modular is ready for more modules. I will of course be adding to my system over time, so if you'd like to stay up to date on that or hear music that I create with it, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, like this video, all the other YouTubey stuff you're supposed to do. I'm going to leave you with more sounds from the modular, but for now, thanks for watching.